I'd like to call the council meeting for July 2nd to order. Has been appropriately noticed.
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ellis,
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Here.
Alderman Zwart,
Here.
Alderman Stray,
Here.
Alderman Kavieski, Alderman Rogers,
Here.
Alderman Rozak, Alderman Shaw.
Here. The first item tonight will be canceled, the public hearing on the 155-foot tall tower. The applicant Verizon Wireless and Central States Towers have formally withdrawn their wireless tower CUP application at 662 East Wisconsin Avenue. So the public hearing is canceled and no further action will be taken. Moving on, next item is minutes for the June 4th, 2019 meeting. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are passed. Next item, comments and suggestions from citizens. If anybody has anything to say on any subject, please fill out a blue card, bring it up to the podium, bring it up to the front. So one person grab one. Thanks. Jill Persick.
Thank you. And I'm looking to see that this is the appropriate time to speak about the resolution
Yes.
that's coming up.
Yes.
Okay, I figured that. So my comments are directed toward the resolution that's being brought up today, requesting the FCC update its studies and guidelines for human exposure to radio frequency. I just urge you to be really aggressive with this request, whatever you come up with, because it's not clear what, it's not clear what the resolution states or what actions you're taking. But I want to point out that the FCC, on the FCC site itself, Brendan Carr is a commissioner, and he's leading the FCC work to really modernize the rules. This is, I'm reading from the site, to modernize the rules governing the build-out of the next generation infrastructure, including 5G, and his reforms are predicted to cut billions of dollars in red tape and have already accelerated deployments. So, helping to bring more broadband to more Americans. But by updating our country's rules for building small cells, he's helped extend U.S. leadership in 5G. Commissioner Carr's also focused on expanding America's skilled workforce and so on. His workforce initiative promotes community colleges, technical schools, and apprenticeships as a pipeline for good-paying jobs. So the FCC really wants the rollout of high-frequency technology. So you've got your work cut out for you in requesting guidelines and new studies and getting those updated. Also, the cell tower in the wireless industry, or the CTIA, which is the Cellular Telecommunications Industry Association. It's one of the largest lobbying groups in Washington, and they always say that the cell antennas are emitting less radiation than the limits. But the research indicates that people are getting sick at these less radiation levels. And a recent Physicians for Safe Technology report states that the majority of published studies now in different countries have shown a relationship between distance from base stations and a variety of health complaints. They found that the closer to the towers people live, there's an increased incidence of reported physical symptoms. So I'm not going to spend time talking about all the health issues, which there are numerous studies and updated studies, including like 2019, because that's going to be a topic for future debate and your own research. But also, I'm a long time Verizon customer, and I love Verizon. I love my cell phone. But I was curious and looked at their 2017 annual report, and Verizon states that our wireless business also faces personal injury and wrongful death lawsuits relating to alleged health effects of wireless phones or radio frequency transmitters. We may incur significant expenses in defending these lawsuits. In addition, we may be required to pay significant awards or settlements. So to put in your back pocket just for further research, that we're up against the giants. So it's going to require some really aggressive work on the community's part. I also just want to say that there are a number of scientists that are really advocating that local and state governing bodies need to be aggressive in their work and doing their due diligence in coming up with their own research, because they realize that they're not going to get it from a lot of other sources. And it's going to require us to do our own due diligence. I love the fact that in your, that strategic plan that you put out, I looked at that today for 2019 to 2024, and I love the plans that you have for having Oconomowoc be a significant place for people to, you know, be healthy and come and visit and have businesses. And you've done like an outstanding job. I'm so proud to live here. And one of your stated guiding principles is to focus on the safety of our community and employees. And I'll assert that you can't in good conscience ignore the thousands of emerging health risks, and that you also have gone from, I noticed, a reactive kind of guiding principle to a proactive approach. And I really applaud that, and I think that this is going to be a test for the governing body here and for our community to be proactive on these issues. So I'm all for and very interested in the resolution that you're proposing, and I request that you really lean into it, and I applaud you for bringing up the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to regular business. First item is the consent agenda. Tonight we have licenses and then the final release of letter of credit for Lake Country Village Phase 1. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to public services. First item is consider act on a resolution awarding contract for the Thackeray Trail Preliminary Design Options Project. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Mark, you want to give a brief update?
Yes, sir, thank you. The item on the agenda tonight is RFP that was sent out by the city looking for preliminary design options for what the existing street portion of Thackeray Trail could potentially look like. Sent out to several firms. We did have 4 that responded. It was a 3-person team that reviewed them for technical score, and then we opened up the cost envelopes for 2 out of the 4. We do use an 80% cutoff, that if you don't receive 80% of the points, we don't open up the cost envelope. The cost envelopes that were open, the score then becomes part of the factor in the final ranking. And the number 1 ranked, including the cost, was Clark Dietz at a not-to-exceed cost of $14,900, and we're recommending them for the work.
Thank you, Mark. Questions? We discussed this in committee, and what this will be is a preliminary overall conceptual design of what the existing Thackeray Trail would look like with the options, and then give us a preliminary cost so we know which direction to head. Thanks, Mark. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Next item, protection and welfare. Consider act on a resolution requesting federal government, FCC, to update studies and guidelines for human exposure to radio frequency. Need a motion to approve the resolution?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Karen, you want to talk about it, since it's your resolution?
Well, this is a kind of a boilerplate template that a lot of different communities are using to encourage the FCC to update their guidelines on RF exposure, which hasn't been done for several years. I talked at the last meeting, went into depth on a lot of this, so I won't do that at this point. However, I know that in our meeting over there, in the other room, they were basically saying, you know, a resolution is just like a Christmas card that's going to the FCC, but we're actually sending this on to federal and state legislators who, many of them also are very interested in seeing some of these things through, seeing the FCC to possibly look at these things more in depth and potentially give local communities some of the control back that has been taken away from us as far as these cell towers that are going in. So I think it's an important step. We're putting them on notice with hundreds and thousands of other communities across the country to say, hey, let's update this stuff. Let's think about the safety and health of our citizens going forward as we start rolling out more of these cell phone towers and 5G capabilities.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment, I want to thank Alderman Spielberg for putting this together and thinking about the community and being proactive.
Seeing no other comments, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Utility Committee. Consider act on a second amendment to land lease agreement, term extension, basically, between City of Oconomowoc and the Spectrum Mid-America LLC for cable communication lines located at 163B Sheldon Road. We need a motion to approve the second amendment to the land lease.
I'll make a motion to approve the second amendment to the lease agreement between the City of Oconomowoc and Spectrum Mid-America LLC.
Second.
Joe?
So what you have before you tonight is the second amendment to a lease. The original building was built on the water utility property on Sheldon Road. So it sits by the standpipe on the east side, and it was built in 1999. And that lease has terminated, and they wanted to re-up it. This is, as I said, it's a Spectrum and Charter fiber optic communication building, about 12 by 12 in its footprint. The language before you has been reviewed by Stan Riffle and approved by the Utility Committee to move forward. It's for a 5-year term, and it's to escalate in cost 3% every year, which reflects the numbers that you see on the paper before you.
Thank you, Joe. Questions?
Joe, can't we squeeze some more out of it instead of 3%? I mean, that's not even,
The previous one was 3%, and so they just agreed to do 3%.
did you try to give more? I
Well,
mean, that, you know,
Mr. Stan Riffle worked on it.
well, there's
I
the
did not
problem right
work on it,
there.
so that's all I can tell you. If he tried for 5, I don't know that. He didn't tell me that.
Any other comments? And now we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to new business. Next item is consider act on an ordinance to establish section 5.18 of the City of Oconomowoc Municipal Code for fire department fees and procedures for administrative station and fire department fees. Need a motion to give the ordinance its first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Before you tonight is an ordinance for the Western Lakes Fire District to establish the inspection or fire service fees. This is something that we've been talking about since last fall during the budget season. These fees were approved in their budget. This ordinance establishes the fees effective January 1st, 2019. The ordinance itself really does a couple of things. It establishes the fee. It allows for the fee to be changed by resolution from time to time. It also sets forth the administration of those fees. So the fire department is actually going to be in charge of the administration. They will be doing the billing and collection. It is part of their revenues. It also allows for the unpaid or delinquent bills to be sent back to the city in November, like we do with other delinquent bills. Those would be added to the tax roll as a special charge. Other than that, the fire department will be in charge of taking care of those fees. Chief Bowen is here too, if you have any questions on the fees.
We discussed this at the meeting last Wednesday night, so. Any questions from anybody on this ordinance? Go ahead.
I wasn't there, oh, sorry. Is this common in most?
Thank you. The fire inspection fees, our closest neighbors that implement them is the Lake Country Fire Department, City of Delafield, Neshota, and Shaniqua, City of Waukesha, New Berlin, Pewaukee, all have these fees in place to help cover the cost of staff hours doing fire inspections throughout the community. Our district spends about 2 FTEs doing fire inspections, and the $148,000 spread throughout all of the communities we serve help cover those costs of those FTEs.
Go ahead, Kevin.
One of the things that concerns me, or let me ask you a question. These fire inspections, are they going to just be showing up and doing these inspections, or is it more expect me at a certain hour, a certain day?
The way that we operate with our Fire Inspection Bureau is they're scheduled between January and the end of May, and then July through the end of November. Anytime during that time, we will show up at businesses and complete the inspections. We don't pre-schedule them because we're meant to show up there per the state SPS 330 and find businesses in normal operation without them knowing that we're coming, because at any time, those violations could exist. Our larger commercial occupancies, hospitals, or high-end places that maybe need it to be scheduled, we do pre-schedule those if our showing up would be an inconvenience to them. If we show up at a regular business and they say, hey, it's a really bad time, our inspectors will then come back at a different time to complete the inspection.
And so let's assume that that business owner says, this is a real bad time right now, I can't spend any time with you. Will they be charged for that?
No, the fees are when we actually complete the inspection, not for each time that we show up attempting to do the inspection. It's when we actually go through and complete the inspections as required by the state of Wisconsin.
Now, let's assume that there are some violations.
Yep.
The second time you come back, are they charged?
The second time, if they have not completed the inspections, they get a secondary warning, and then if we go up again, then they would start to get fees for not getting those.
I'm referring to the visit itself now. Are you?
No, they're not charged a separate inspection fee for the visit. It's only if they don't have those violations taken care of.
But if I understand the first visit, there's going to be a charge for that.
Correct. So every occupancy, it's the first visit that the fee is coming from. Any follow-up visits, because they don't have compliant fees or compliant ordinances, then we would go back, check them, and if they don't have their violations corrected, after the second time, that's where they would get a fine for not having the violations corrected. Currently, our only other option is to turn it over to the state of Wisconsin, which charges a fine by the day and can actually close a business down. And that fine per day is $100 per violation per day that it's not corrected. So we're trying to work at a local level with our businesses to keep working with them to correct the violations, which are a health and safety concern when we go in there.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't at the meeting, so what is that fee?
The fee is based on the type of business and also the size of the business, square footage. The draft fees are included in your packet. So a general retail location, less than 2,000 square feet, that fee is $75.
Okay, any other questions?
I have another. This goes for homeowners also?
Nope, this is
Just
for
for the small
required
business.
commercial occupancy inspections that we have to complete per the state.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis,
I have another question.
I already called the roll.
Okay. Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Zwart,
Aye.
Alderman Stray,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Nay.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye. 4-2. Without objection, we'll waive the second reading.
Objection.
Vote on it.
Okay, we'll vote on the, okay, we'll vote on the, on waiving of the second reading. Have to have a motion for that. Need a motion to waive the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
Have a
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis,
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Zwart,
Aye.
Alderman
You voted
Stray,
to waive
Aye.
it.
Oh, wait, no, I'm confused.
This is to waive the second reading.
To waive the second reading? Okay. Nay.
We thought you wanted.
Yeah.
okay, so
Sorry.
Alderman Ellis is a no.
That's a no. That's, I'm
Alderman
sorry.
Spiegelberg, are
Aye.
you- you're aye. Alderman
Aye.
Zwart, aye. Alderman Stray,
Forgot already. Aye.
okay. Alderman Rogers,
Can I get clarification on this, please? I don't understand waiving the second reading.
It's more, you can have two readings for an ordinance.
Okay.
Attorney Riffle has always suggested that we waive the second reading. So that's what we're doing. Then the ordinance takes effect immediately. So if we had a second reading, which we're gonna be looking at that later, how we run things, because most communities don't have second readings. If you had a second reading, then it would wait for one meeting period, and then
So this is going to come back up if
it
everybody's in
would have
agreement.
come back up if we had a second reading. If we didn't have a second reading,
If you don't have a second reading, it will come back up.
in 2 weeks.
no,
If
No,
we don't
no,
have a
no.
second reading, it's done.
it's done.
No, yeah, if we don't have a second reading, it's done.
Gotcha.
But if we didn't waive the rules and suspend the second reading, it would take 2 weeks to do it again.
Nay.
Alderman Shaw,
Aye.
Okay, so we waive the second reading, so it's complete. Thank you. Let's see, moving on. Next item is consider acting on a resolution to establish fire department fees pursuant to section 5.18 of the municipal code. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay, so following the adoption of the ordinance, the remaining item to do is to approve the resolution that sets the fees for 2019. Again, these will be effective January 1st, 2019. The fee
And then
schedule
basic-
is attached to your resolution.
So for less than 5,000 square feet, it's $75. So, which would be probably the majority of our small businesses. Questions? Go ahead.
It's more of a statement, more so than a question, but I will ask the question anyway. Have the business owners been made aware of this new change?
The large retail and commercial occupancies, the large ones that we're looking at, fees of $900, were consulted and discussed with. The small general retail, we were not, because we really couldn't go out and say these are coming until we had an ordinance to bring forward, and it was approved by the 4 communities that we serve. So we didn't send anything out. When we send the first bill out, we will include a cover letter from the fire district explaining the fees, comparables, other communities, and the reason behind the fees.
My only concern is the fact that regardless, if you've got a big business, you know, maybe $350 is a spit in the bucket, but then you've got a lot of small businesses, $100 is a lot of money. And I think this is being done in a wrong fashion. I'm not saying that it's not necessarily the right way, but I'm saying this is a definitely wrong way to do it, because it's almost putting the cart before the horse. Now what you're saying is, you've got this fee, the council has voted for it, it's now in law, this is what you need to pay. It doesn't give them the ability to talk through this so that we have, as a body, have an understanding of how our small businesses are doing. we're actually putting the cart before the horse. And that's my concern. It's not that I want to vote no, but there's got to be a structured way in which we can get our small businesses to come in and voice their opinion. Now, if they don't come in, then that's their problem. But I think that, I think we're going about this too quickly. I personally do. There's got to be a letter or something going out to them saying, this is what we're looking to do to accomplish for the purpose of whatever that purpose is. And it could go in effect as of this date. We need to hear from you. If we don't hear from you, then our assumption is you're okay with it. So if they do come back in front of us, and they will, okay, we can say, we sent you a letter. We asked you to come in front of us. We asked you for your opinion, just like we did with the towers. Just like we did with them. Because we understood exactly how the public felt. When I got that today stating that Verizon was like, well, maybe we won't do this, I felt good because that tells me that the public stood up. What you're doing here is you're squeezing the small business. You can show up at any time for any reason and do an inspection and charge them money. That's the bottom line. And I do have a problem with that.
I have a question, Sarah. How many meetings have we discussed this in open session? Besides here and also at the fire meetings?
I don't know the exact number, but it was discussed during the budget meetings in 2018, which we would have had 2 meetings in late summer, early fall. So the fees were a part of that budget process. And then
That was discussed amongst us. It was
No,
not
it was an
discussed
open
amongst the public.
Meeting, publicly noticed in the paper. Every business knew this was happening.
No, I doubt that.
Well,
No,
if they,
I'm sorry,
if
I
they
doubt
were
that, because
concerned,
I'm a
they
business
would've-
owner, and I'm telling you, I did not know.
Well,
And
it's
I
been,
sit here.
it's been discussed and it's been in open session many times.
And for every, I'll keep my-
Charlie?
These fire inspections are required, correct?
Correct.
And so you've got guys that are going out and doing these fire inspections right now, and the taxpayers are footing that bill,
Correct.
their time,
Yeah, it's
across the
part,
board.
yep,
So this is to defray some of the cost that's going to the taxpayer. It's not even all the cost.
correct. It's helping offset the commercial component of our fees in our general operating budget.
Okay.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Andy.
Again, I missed a lot of this.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna pay $75 for Adam to stand there and say, yep, your fire extinguishers are in the right spot. Have a good day.
For us to walk through, check exit lights, electrical, yeah, to do our
And
walkthrough.
every year, I'm always good, because it's not that hard to do what you're told.
For some it is, and some it is
Fair.
a lot more time consuming.
And I'm guessing, I don't know where my building lays, but whatever, I'm
Yeah.
just. I guess that's my problem. I mean, I already pay enough in taxes, and I'm gonna end up paying more as time goes on. We all get that. I feel like that's a service that should be provided to me based upon the fact that I do comply and I'm getting charged for something. If I could do that to my customers, I wouldn't have any business, because yes, I understand tax dollars are paying. Yes, you're trying to find ways to help spread that around, so I get that, but $75 or $175, I'm not a fan, because that's, I pay personal property tax for no, like that's another conversation. Anyways, I respect what you guys do, that's not it. I'm not for having to pay a fee for somebody to come in for 5 to 7 minutes to walk through my building and go, yep, you're fine. I'm not for it.
Go ahead, Karen.
I would be voting for this. I totally appreciate what you guys are saying, but this is standard in many and most communities, and we're not exceeding the state statute with the amount that we're charging, and I guess I look at it as a cost of doing business. But I do appreciate, where you guys are coming from. My husband and I own our own business too, and a lot of these things are just a cost of doing business for us.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
Karen, I understand that, but first off, they come in more than once in a year. Second off, like Andy has stated, at the end of the day, they're going to be in for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and I'm going to have to come out with $125. Not making sense to me whatsoever. There's got to be a better way to do this, and I don't think this is it. I think this is there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are not going to like this at all.
How long has the Delafield, whatever,
They implemented them in 2010,
2010, and Waukesha does it, Pewaukee does it,
New Berlin.
New Berlin. So
And
all these
just
other
a,
communities do it.
Well, I'm happy for them, but I'm not New Berlin, I'm not Pewaukee, and I'm not Delafield. I'm Oconomowoc. And I want to make sure that the small businesses that are here are given a fair shake, and I don't see where that's a fair shake.
and just a quick point of clarification on the fees that are in that fee schedule. The fee that's listed is for our spring and fall inspections. It's not, you get 2 fees, it's that spread between those 2 inspections. Because we are required to come twice a year, every 6 months. So that fee that's listed is for both inspections. And that's how the other communities do it. It's one invoice for both inspections.
Go ahead, Tom.
I look at this, you know, if you didn't have this thing and all of a sudden your fire extinguishers go expired and they don't work, and all of a sudden you have a fire where you could have put it out with a fire extinguisher. It's kind of like the old Fram oil thing, pay me now or pay me later. Now, for $100, you can lose your whole business. And I mean, that's common sense, sorry. I'm full of it.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, that's their job. They need to come in and tell us what's wrong and what we need to fix. So regardless if we pay for it or not, that service is going to be there. That's the bottom line.
Any
So
other
unless you guys really understand and you sit in this seat as a business owner, you don't understand exactly how difficult it is on a daily basis. You get surprises every day. You got to put out fires every day. Now, this one is going to be another one. And all of a sudden, your inspector is going to come in and he's going to say, hi, oh, by the way, you need to cut me a check. Okay? When does the bleeding stop? I just don't get that. Or at least, if the businesses on Oconomowoc say, like Karen has stated, hey, it's a cost of doing business, I'm willing to do it, well, then guess what? Then my answer is going to be fine. But until I hear from them, I can't approve this. My answer is going to be no, because I'm just thinking about even my landlord. He's got a 40,000 square foot building. Now he's going to have to come out of pocket? He's going to come to me and say, what's going on? And I'm going to say, oh, well, you got to speak to the chief. Here's his cell phone number. Now, of course, you know I'm not going to do that. But the point of the fact here is there's got to be some sort of communication. And granted, it may be put on our website that we're having these meetings.
It's not ours, it's the
Okay.
Western Lakes Fire District.
Regardless, this needs to somehow or another get out to the small businesses so that they can have their say. If they say nothing, well, we go on. But if they do say something, maybe then we can talk, and maybe we can think about some other alternatives.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion, the second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis,
Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Zwart,
Aye.
Alderman Stray,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Nay.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the next item, consider act on strategic plan update 2019 to 2024.
Okay, so tonight is the results of the planning sessions that the council has done. It was April 30th, and just a couple of weeks ago, to update the city's strategic plan. We put together the strategic plan about a year ago, June of 2018, and we've just finished the update. So I'm going to give you a look at what we're going to have on the city's website so that people can take a look at it. This cover page is the same as it was before. This is our page that I believe was being talked about earlier tonight. That kind of shows what our past and current state is and where we want to be, with the sails showing our goals that we have set forth. And the buoys, of course, are our guiding principles that will show the way that we will conduct business and treat each other as we work on the strategic plan. When we take a look at the strategic plan, we've divided it into 5 goal areas. Those 5 goal areas haven't changed, but we did change a couple of things inside of each one of them. In the safe and secure community, we did, in the objectives, okay, so let's say this real quick. With our strategic plan, it's divided into our 5 goals, and each goal is divided into objectives and then broken down further into action items, or things that we're gonna do that the council has, directed staff to do to help us achieve those goals and objectives. So our first goal is providing a safe and secure community. And under the first objective, we combined quality services for police, fire, and EMS instead of having them in separate objective areas. And another update was to add the objective to enhance programs for the citizen safety, and the item there to look at options for safety and visibility in our downtown pedestrian crosswalks. In goal number 2, which is to improve and maintain our infrastructure facilities, we added a couple of items in here. The council members suggested adding, working on an action item would be working on engineering design for the reconstruction of existing Thackeray Trail. So we scheduled that in there, and also identifying future parking opportunities in the downtown area. So that's added in. Other things that the city's already completed have been taken away from the plan. The next strategic goal area is focusing on economic development, and that area we added, one of the big ones that we added was further promotion of the major facade improvement program downtown, and creating historic property inventory, which is a new item for the city, and that's something that the planning department will be working on. Goal item number 4 is to improve our quality of life assets, and in there we talked about evaluating potential sites in the downtown or more central region of the city for a skate park, and of course working on that Wizard of Oz Plaza. And the 5th and final goal area is enhancing the effectiveness of our city government. A major change there was an objective A, since everything in that objective was completed in the first year and meant to be completed in the first year. We added an objective that says develop, update, maintain city ordinances and policies. And then we added 5 major areas that we'll be working on in the upcoming years under that item. And then there is the create the technology committee in here as well under improving our technology. So this is the updated strategic plan. You will be able to find this on our website. Also, the city administrator will be providing quarterly updates to the council on our progress on the plan. I believe the next presentation is coming up within a few weeks. And you will also be getting some written reports that you can take a look at that will show you all of the items that are being worked on, and other than just the ones that Sarah highlights during the quarterly update. And that's what I have.
If you go back to the 3rd slide,
Which one?
back,
The 3rd slide?
that,
This one?
right there, you have, under improve our quality of life assets as staff owner,
Oh, I see that. Thank you.
that out.
I guess I didn't want to write vacant, but I'll fix it before it goes
We'll
up
just
on the
take- I mean,
website.
if you're gonna put it out, until we, get to the point where we name a new.
Thank you. We'll make sure that gets fixed.
Won't have his name there. Any questions? What do we have here? This is so we need a motion to approve the strategic plan update for 2019 to 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Seconded, any questions? I know we've discussed this several times. Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Staff reports, Chief Berger. Is our first person, maybe our only.
It's important.
Reason I'm here today is to give you an update as far as the litter citation bond amount. In early June, the Protection and Welfare Committee directed staff to look into raising the bond amount for a citation for littering. To follow proper procedure, I contacted Judge Kay, talked to Judge Kay, and he agreed to increase the bond amount to $502, which is consistent with our current bond schedule for fine amounts in that amount. That is pretty much it. Any questions?
I think basically you have the authority to change the fine.
We
Or
can
the bond amount.
We can request to the judge. The judge has the final say as far as what our bond schedule is.
Right, so it's nothing that the council has to take up, it's
Right.
just something that they do. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other staff reports?
Yeah, I would like to invite Mark Fry up to just give a brief report on the storm damage from the weekend.
There was some.
There was some.
Yeah, just a real quick update. I know that some information went out, but Sunday around noon, the city experienced a fairly significant storm event with very heavy rainfall and winds, and in a short amount of time, there was, phones were lit up regarding a lot of trees being down in the area. They were kind of scattered. We had about 50 significant limbs or trees that were down that we investigated that day. This happened in probably about, 20-minute to half-hour max time frame for this to happen. But the departments, the electric utility had some of their crew in to address the power outages that had taken place, and then both Parks and Public Works had crews in addressing the trees. In a storm event such as that, our number one goal is to get the streets open, which would allow for emergency vehicle access. So even if it's a private tree, that it's the homeowner's responsibility, we will use our equipment and chainsaws and do what we can to get the tree pushed off to the side so that the streets are open, and then the property owner can take care of them at a later date. The city trees, we take care of anything that was up in the wires. We had the assistance of the electric utility crew to make sure that everything was safe and taken care of that way. So, like I said, we had about 50 trees. We did get a call on a couple flooded intersections, and that was in the Forest Street area, which is a project that we've been talking about for some time. So, that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments from staff?
No, nothing else this evening.
Okay, reports and comments from the alderman? Go ahead.
I just want to thank, I know he's not here, but Lou, for what he did for the parade. I think that was outstanding. I don't know if that's ever happened before, where I'd say the majority of the aldermen were there, if not all, well, no, I think,
Christmas parades, we've had
okay.
quite a few.
But that was probably a lot of time and effort on his part. We probably don't know what he went through to get what he got. And for the record, I want to really commend him and give him the thumbs up for that.
Any other comments from the alderman? Go ahead.
Quick shout out to Mark and his weed cutting crew, because I'd had some comments from individuals on Fowler and then individuals from other districts who come in and swim in the Fowler Park Bay Area. And they did a great job getting in there this week and really getting a lot of weeds and a lot of garbage out of there. And along with that goes a lot of that smell that gets into that Bay Area. So good job, Mark. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Reports and comments from the mayor. I'd like to thank the DPW crew, the electric crew. I drove around Sunday after I got some of the information just to see what was going on and the list that they had to go through of incidents. And by the time I came through, I mean, it was only a little bit later. My power had just come back on. But I noticed that the streets were open, people were out. What I really thought was nice to see was neighbors out talking to each other, helping each other, getting things cleaned up. And it's always like that after a storm. Everybody's out to see what's broken, what's damaged, and it was nice to see people out helping everybody else clean things up. And I think the community, came together and did a good job. I'd also like to thank the fire department for all the work they had to do down at City Beach. I know there was a couple incidents where we were unsure of what was happening, and I think they did a fantastic job making sure that everybody was safe. Another thing is, in 2 weeks from tonight, the representatives from our sister city in Dietzenbach will be here. They come in a week from Friday. We'll be spending the weekend doing some touring, doing some events, and they will be here at our next meeting for I don't think anybody here has ever really met with them. So it's be nice to have them come in, and hopefully we'll have a little bit on the agenda so they can see how our council works. When I was over there a couple years ago, we got to see how their form of government functioned. It's a little bit different than us, but it's very nice. So they will be here on the 16th at the beginning of the meeting, and we'll go from there. So just want to let everybody know that that'll be happening. Anything else going on? We have a closed session per Wisconsin Stats 19.85 per N1 per N deliberating negotiation, the purchase of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This is a request for tax incremental financing by Mandel, basically a Mandel proposal. So we need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
And move to adjourn.